Hello, my name is Dr. Andrea Gazanica. I'm a professor in the English department at Honors College here at NKU. The subject of this short video is audience. When we think about what an audience is, we might imagine a group of people listening to a performance, or a group of people listening to a speech. Whatever the case, the most basic definition of an audience is a group of listeners. But when we talk about audience in terms of rhetoric, we mean a set of very specific and guiding principles that shape the way we write, the way we talk, and the way we respond to others. Now, we all instinctively know the rhetorical principles of audience because we subconsciously use them every single day. For example, the way we greet or talk to our friends is different from the way we might greet or talk to our coworkers. It would be appropriate to use slang when talking casually with our peers, but slang would be inappropriate in a business meeting. Or the way we write about a certain topic in a text to our friend is going to be vastly different from the way we write about it in an academic essay for our college courses. In other words, we already understand how we change our syntax, vocabulary, tone, and even body language, depending on who we are talking or writing to and in what context. Whether it's a large crowd, a small group, or even one-on-one, every time we communicate, we have an audience. As a writer or public speaker, your ability to effectively communicate and persuade people to take your ideas seriously depends largely on knowing and understanding your audience. So let's think about what it means to know your audience. Knowing who your audience is means knowing, or at least anticipating, some basic information about them. What is their knowledge or expertise on the subject you will be discussing? Knowing or anticipating what your audience knows about a subject will determine how you explain it and in what detail. For example, if you're speaking about a new theory of climate change to a group of geologists, you won't need to explain the basic principles of geology that underlie your research, nor will you have to define for them certain terminology, because they have expertise in that field of study. But if you're speaking to a public audience, let's say you're giving a talk at a library, then you would need to explain those basic concepts, because you can reasonably assume your audience will not have knowledge of them. You can also think about how different disciplines or fields of study have different ways of talking about subjects. When you write in different disciplines, whether it's history, social sciences, whatever, it's useful to know what the audience in those particular fields assume or already understand. What kinds of questions do they ask? What counts as evidence for them? Knowing these things will shape what and how you write. Next, you should consider the values and beliefs of an audience to whom you're speaking or writing. When you do so, you can anticipate what they will positively or negatively respond to in what you're saying, and thereby enable you to make choices about how to appeal to them. You should think about their religious, political, or cultural beliefs. For example, if you're an animal rights activist talking to the SPCA, you won't need to work very hard to convince your audience of your credibility because they will most likely share your values. However, if you're an animal rights activist talking to a group of scientists who do testing on animals, you will need to spend some time establishing your credibility with them, and you'll probably use logical instead of emotional appeals to persuade them of your message. Other factors to consider about your audience are their age and education and their expectations. Are they expecting to be informed or entertained? You will tailor what and how you write depending on what the audience expects from the situation. This goes hand in hand with the question of genre. For example, the genre you are writing in will shape what and how you write. If you're writing a literary analysis for your English class, it would not make sense to include personal information about yourself. But if you're writing a personal narrative, then you can assume your audience expects that kind of information from that genre. So why is it important to know your audience? When you define to whom you are writing or speaking, you are better equipped to use the appropriate language to convey your message, and you will make better choices about which rhetorical appeals will be most persuasive. All of this will make you a more credible writer and speaker. But let's not forget, the same principles that apply to you as a writer and speaker also apply to you as a reader or listener. Just as you would ask yourself, who is my audience, before you write or compose a speech, you can also ask of the text you're reading or of the people you are listening to, who is their intended audience? Understanding what a writer or speaker assumes about our audience will enable you to better understand her arguments and the way she frames them. So whether you are reading a text or writing one, giving a speech, or listening to one, understanding the audience is always the first step to successfully conveying or deciphering one's message.